Hello, guys. We are ready to get started. Let me just zoom in a bit here. Okay, so today we're going to do the Gaggia Classic Pro. Yesterday we did the Gaggia Classic. Today's going to be similar. The biggest difference is a part of the wiring, I guess. Some switches are wired differently. The hoses are different if you do the Pro install. So I'm going to show that today. Okay. I have prepared some more things than yesterday on the machine. The thermocouple is already installed on there. The machine was previously modded, so it had a bit of different wiring. I kind of went ahead and made a new wiring harness for the machine as per spec of the Gaggia wiring diagram. So it should look the same. Maybe some colors are different, but they can always be different on these machines. Okay. I'm going to start by going through the parts again. So right here we have the main piece, which is the GaggiMate screen with our 3D printer housing, which is professionally SLA printed. Then here we have the two PCBs. We have GaggiMate Pro on the right and just the GaggiMate Standard on the left. Main difference is there is a dimmer and the pressure sensor on the GaggiMate Pro. We have the GaggiMate Pro housing here. This is not the one we'll be sending out, just one I printed. The SSR for boiler control. And then this is the main difference between these machines. When you go in the shop and buy the kit, then you can select a bunch of different plumbing options. If you have the Gaggia Classic Pro, you're going to need like a silicone hose and some barb fittings, which is what's inside the machine as well. If you have the Gaggia Classic, it's like PTFE pressure fittings. So just watch out what you order then. The pressure transducer, we're going to send out the 1.6 megapascal one, but it is going to be configurable. Hello, everybody. Is it the same procedure with the E24? Yeah, it's basically the same. The boiler looks a bit different, but otherwise it's the same machine. And then we have a bunch of cables here. I'm just going to go through those as we use them. Right now it's a bit of a cable mess here. Okay, so what you want to do when you get started is you first want to flash the components. So let me just quickly open that. All right. So you're going to go to the GaggiMate Docs website. This is also where you find the components that you need. If you buy the kit, you don't need much. Maybe a bit of zip ties and or tape or something and some tools. You're also going to find the wiring diagrams here. These top two are the ones we're sending out right now. So this is the GaggiMate Pro PCB and the GaggiMate Standard. And then this was the first one that we sent out last year. But the option you want to go for first is the flashing website. And then you kind of just want to use a USB-C cable. And right now I'm going to plug in the PCB, the controller PCB. For this, you want to use a Chrome-based browser or Chromium-based browser. So just plug it into your PC, click this button, connect, and then you can install it. Takes a couple of seconds. PCB is pretty quick. It's a very small firmware, and then the screen takes a bit longer. Yes, continues. Yeah. All right, that's it. And if you ever have like some errors or you want to open a bug report, you can also read the logs with this one. So right now the device is complaining that it can't read the temperature and it's turning off heaters and pump to just make sure nothing bad happens. Okay, and then afterwards you just plug in the display as well and do the same with the display. I've already done that in this case, so but it's just the other button. So I'm going to do one install on this machine, and that's going to be the Pro install. I am just going to tell you which things you would do differently if it was GaggiMate Standard. For the wiring part, it's kind of the same. You just leave out the pressure sensor, basically. All right. So first step you want to do, remove everything that might be lying on your machine. Probably this cap, water filter, which is stuck on, and then drip tray, just so you can move it around and nothing like falls down. And then you want to make sure it's not plugged into power. I've already done that. So just unplug it and you should be good to go. And then you're going to need some tools, mainly a Phillips head screwdriver. And just unscrew those two screws at the back here. And once they're loose, this just comes right out. So put those to the side. Let me see how I can adjust the camera. Okay, that looks good. Any idea if this could be potentially retrofitted for the Longi ECP? Not sure if the lack of freeway solenoid would make a difference or not. We do have a compatibility request issue on GitHub, so best shot is to just add one there, and then I'll look at it. Okay, so the first step in the install, which in this case I've already done, is going to be installing the temperature sensor. So I've left the thermostat in here, just so you can see where it would usually go. So right here we have the brew thermostat, which would be connected to the left side of the boiler here. And then there you can see I've already just screwed in the temperature sensor. And then this machine was also fitted with a different safety thermostat. So I just put that where your usual thermostat is, or like the temperature fuse. So what you would usually do is to install this, you can unplug this, and we're going to do that in a bit. And then to make it a bit easier, I tried this yesterday on the Gaggia Classic, but on the newer machines, you should just easily be able to just unscrew the steam valve over here, and then unscrew the 4 bolts at the bottom of the machine. So right here where it holds the group head. And then you can tilt the entire boiler, and that makes it a lot easier to install. Okay, let's put this back. All right. Okay, so we're going to start with this screw thermostat here, which I've already taken out. What you just want to do is unplug these two cables. And then you can put that on a drawer somewhere. And in the wiring kit, you're going to have a very short red wire like this. And you just take the two connections and plug that in there. So like this. Make sure that's connected. And then next up, we can do the next thermostat, which is the steam thermostat here. And for that, you also want to undo the connections. Keep those here. And you're going to have two yellow wires. Those are going to be labeled in here. Those are the ones that go to the solid state relay. And then simply connect that in there. Where did the other one go? Yeah. If you do this to your machine and you potentially want to just reverse it or it's under warranty, it's best to label these. And then you always have an idea of how to put it back. Okay. So next up, we can fit the SSR. You can kind of like use thermal adhesive or screws to bolt that to the back of the grates. So I prepared a little M4 screw here. And the nut. Let me just get an Allen key. Okay. So this one, we have 4 connections. At the top, you can see are the AC connections. And then at the bottom, you have the DC connections. So those two yellow wires that you connected to your steam thermostat, or basically replace the steam thermostat with, those are going to be run to your SSR. So just unscrew these. These are going to be delivered when you order the kit with the fork style connectors. I didn't have any right now. And then Amazon didn't deliver any, so I am using ferrules, but the installation is the same. All right, that's in there. And then you're going to have a shorter, usually black and yellow wire. Again, I blame Amazon. And then you want to connect the yellow to the port 3 or the plus. And black, or white in this case, to the minus. All right. And now we can fix the SSR to the back of the machine. So I'll just hold this on here. An M4 screw or a, what would that be? 1/8 screw, probably. Just fits perfectly, so it's great. And then and just hold the nut against this. I'm gonna see if that actually clears or not. But I think this should be fine. If it doesn't clear, just move it a bit to the left so it's not in the way of the water spout. Okay. So that's for the steam thermostat, and there's no polarity, correct? Yeah, the AC connections, the chunky yellow wires, those are just AC, so there's no polarity. The one that I connected that are hanging to the right of the machine now, those do have a polarity. So those would be yellow and black, and then the yellow is plus or signal, and then the black is minus. Okay. So now I'm going to remove the steam thermostat. And then if your Gaggia fuse ever blows, you can get one of these, which are installed in a Ransomware Sylvia, for example. These are resettable. And usually there would be no port for them to put them on this boiler. But if you do the GaggiMate install, then you can just use one of those. And then these you wouldn't have to replace. There's just a little knob at the top. So if the fuse pops, that comes up and you can press it back down. And that's it. Okay. So since I rewired this machine, it is a EU model, um, but it didn't have the EU module in there. We do deliver this short cable here. That's for tricking your EU or like Eco PCB. So usually, let me show this again. If you do have the EU model, these two connections here in the middle, there would be wires there. And those kind of tell the Eco PCB if your machine is brewing, and then it wouldn't shut off. So what you do is you just take those two off, use a small cable here, and connect them together. And then your machine would always be thinking it's currently brewing, and then it doesn't shut off. But yeah, since we do not have this, I'm going to do that right now. So now we want to connect the pump and three-way valve. So what you want to do is you want to remove the wire from the pump that isn't connected to the little thermal fuse. So you have a very thin wire here at the back of the pump. That would be your thermal fuse. But then you kind of want to do the other one. That is very hard to show. Just gonna try and get that off. This is usually gray. I'm at screen now. I didn't have any gray wire. And then from the wiring kit, you want to take the green wire, which has a female quick connect connector, and you want to connect that to the pump back here. Okay. And then the wire you took off the pump, that goes to the three-way valve as well. So for this one, you want to use the red wire that came with the kit and just connect that in there. And this one should have a little insulation. One sec. That apparently came off. All right. So pump wire. Okay. So here we have the two. See if there's any question. Can this display the pressure already? I have to update the screen. It does read the pressure and it also already dimmed the pump. I'll probably add the display in the next few days. Can you please show the inside of where the green and red cable connected to? Yes. So, wait, let me actually show this on a pump. I have a bunch here. So if you have your pump, this should be the one for the Pro. You have a wire that goes in here to the thermal fuse, and then from there it goes to either one of the terminals. And then the other one that doesn't go to the fuse, you take that off. And that's what this one was. Can you see that? And then you take the green wire from the kit and connect that to where you took the other wire off. Okay, so now we're going to do some modifications to the switch wiring. So for the steam switch, let me just undo the camera here. For the steam switch, we want to take the black wire here, that's on the left side from the top, and move that over one to the right, like that. And then we want to take the white one from the middle, from this side, and take that off. So we have one side that's completely free. Okay. And then from the white connection, you want to use the blue wire that came with your PCB and connect that in there. And that's going to be neutral. And then from the brew switch, you want to take the brown connector. Let me show the other again. In my case, it's yellow because I took the wiring myself. So it's this one here. Take that off. Use the black cable from the wiring kit. And just connect that in there, like that. And then this one you can just tape shut. That's only used for other machines. So right now we have all the important connections to the PCB, which are these four, and then the SSR. What we're also going to do is make sure we can still use these buttons. So for that, we have another little wire here. Which looks something like this. It's just there's going to be green wires. And then this one, you want to pick a side of your two buttons that has nothing connected. So you don't have any AC in here. Connect the black ones to the middles, so to the middle pins of the free side. And then I picked brown here for the brew and blue for steam. And that would be all the connections here right now. And then we can take the PCB. It is easier if you do this with like a little screwdriver or something. Push these down. Let me just check the stream. So basically, you're steering low-level signals on button side, right? Yes. We're freeing up one of the buttons, or like one of the side of each button, so we only have low voltage there. Okay, we're just going to plug them in here. So this is the buttons one. Here's something to push that in. And here we have the SSR, which is a 3-pin connector. The first generation of the PCB had like 3 relays. We do have an extra pin here if somebody wants to connect an extra SSR for some reason or another. And then I'm also going to run the display cable now. That's going to go outside of the machine. And now we can connect these. So your blue, let's start with black. Light goes in the bottom here. Well, it says L. If you do not order the kit and want to make these yourself, spec for these connectors is 10 millimeter uninsulated. And then just push that in. Okay. Next up is the blue. You guys can see this. Okay. And then we have the red one for the 3-way valve. And green one for the pump. And then also the A-type thermocouple. Let me just see if these fit actually in there. Yeah, no. This one doesn't fit in there. If you get the kit and or just order the thermocouple from the pump, that's gonna fit in there. Let me just get some tool to fix this. I'm gonna crimp these plastic housings down a bit. Nope. Try this again. Okay. I'm just gonna put some new ferrules on there. That should be a bit easier. Get some ferrules. Really cool fit. Mm, yeah, there shouldn't be an issue if you just get the one from the BOM or from the kit. Just wondering if you're planning to create schematic diagram for cable connections within the instruction section on your website. Yeah, I will. Did you use some thermal paste while connecting K-type to the boiler? On the older machine, you can do it. On the newer machines, there should still be some in there. And then if you have a machine from like, I don't know, I think this one is 2019, that should just be good. Let me just, okay. Yeah, if these plastic sheathings are an issue, you can just kind of pull them off, and then it's going to fit in just like that, and like that. Okay. So if you did the standard install, this would be where you're done. But since we're doing the Pro install, we have to add some more components. So I'm going to show that right now. So we're going to need a bit of this tube, like a small section to connect to the pump. I'm just going to cut a piece off of this right now. Take a sharp knife or something. It is fiber reinforced, but it should be fine. And then we're gonna send you guys some hose clamps as well. And then what you want to do is you want to take the longer piece of this. You want to take this little bob piece and the O-ring that we're going to send you. And you want to screw the pressure transducer onto here. It's kind of hand tight. It shouldn't be so tight that it kind of seals the entrance to the sensor, but it should be tight enough that it doesn't leak. And then you put this on here. Take one of your hose clamps, it up enough so you can slide it over your hose. Just like that. And then just clamp this connection down. Yeah. You want to make sure this is pretty tight so you can't just pull it off and it doesn't leak water anyway. like that. That's not going to go anywhere. And then what you want to do is you want to fill this up with water. Is there any particular reason for the host connections to the pressure transducer is this long? Not really. I think I'm going to make it a little shorter, actually. You just want it to kind of lie on the bottom of your machine. And then you do want to fill it up with water, so there's no air bubbles in there. Or it does help to unscrew it and just fill it up. Use this now. Okay. And then you can kind of see it's filled up with water here. And then slide another hose clamp over. Connect it with this T here. And again, fasten that down. Doesn't have to have wet hands with this. That's going to make it slightly harder. All right. And that's also not going to come off. So you could just cut the tube in the middle if you wanted to and put that in there. I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to loosen up this connection here. At the pump. Just try and access this. Okay. So just pull this tube off. Might have water in there. And then we're going to put this on the hose. With another clamp. All right, that's also not coming off. Connect this hose onto here. And then now you want to use these cables here. Those are going to be cut to size. I'm just going to remove a bit of the insulation so I make this easier. Okay. And then these are supposed to be uninsulated for 11 millimeters by spec. Let me just see if we have any new questions. Looks like the hose is pretty loose without the clamp, wrong diameter. No, that's fine. I pressure tested it and it holds on there perfectly. You clamp it down and then it doesn't leak any water. I was just wondering about the volume of water in the line that does not get replaced because it is not in the flow path anymore. Anybody have any long-term experience with that? You don't want like air bubbles in there because those would rise to the back of the pressure transducer probably and give you wrong readings. But the water in there should be fine. So I'm going to check the PCB here. And then the back one here is 5 volts. So that would be the red connection here. Put that in there. The middle one is the analog or signal one. Let's thread that in there. Get a small tool or something. Push this down. Small screwdriver should work best. Okay. And then lost the ground connection. And that also just pushed in there. Oh, a little more. Okay. And then now you can pull these all to one side. So for the HV connection. Take your housing. Just kind of lot that in here with the USB-C port. And then cover it up like this. Just make sure you don't nick any cables in here. And there you go. So we can start by moving this all here in the back. Meanwhile, you can leave to one side. These cables I'm going to organize a bit later. And then you just need the pressure transducer to be laying somewhere in the back here. And I'll just remove this here. So we have some space to work with. That's OPV cube. Oh, got one. Push that on here. Underneath here. Okay. This can go back. This cover can go on here. And then tighten this down. It is a plastic connector here, so tighten it down so it's watertight, but not too much so it breaks. And then see that doesn't come. Okay. So now we can do a test. See that nothing's in the way here. Pressure transducer. Make sure you have enough space back here to fit the water funnel back in. And let's plug this in and test. What material did you use for printing the housing? This one is ASA/CF. Do you recommend to combine the OPV outlet with the pump hose using a T-connector to have only one hose running down the water tank? I haven't thought about that. I think it's fine the way it is. It'd be great to know the exact length of each of the hose that's needed for those that didn't get the kit. I do recommend ordering like 30 centimeters. That's what we're going to send with the kit. So let's connect the display. And then let's see if this starts up. Yep, pump is working. Get something to put under the group head here. Temperature reading's fine. It is heating. Let's see if this is working. Yep, works perfectly. Steam mode works. Let's see about the buttons. Screw works. Steam works. Perfect. There's also no water in the machine, so just maybe the first time run it with the case open. Just be careful not to touch anything and see if anything's leaking or something. So let's take this back off. Get the water chute. Yeah, okay. My solid state relay is not on the perfect location there. So always remove the plug. Otherwise, there is a chance there's still some kind of voltage in there. Just move that to the left here. Okay. Should have straight. Let's try this again. And then when everything's running, probably it's a good idea to do some cable management in here. And also, you should find a good location to route these two wires through without nicking them or anything. I'm just going to try this front corner here. Yeah, just like that. That seems fine. Just put that on here. The red lights below screw and steam button don't work. You didn't connect them. They're not connected to the PCB per se. They are connected to the rest of the harness. And then the steam lamp usually shows you when the machine is heating. That's just the way we wire it up. Okay. And then let me just push these in here. So it looks somewhat neat. And then later on, I'll do some wiring organization. Yeah. Okay, let's put back the rest of the machine. I'll press back into power. And turn it back on. And I think it's going to need some water. Slightly more. Okay. Clean this up a bit. And then we can pull a shot of espresso. Yeah, this is, by the way, very good to have for wiring organization. So make sure to just grab some. So the grinder here is kind of new, so I'm not sure how this shot is going to come out, but let's just try. Okay, just grab my lock screen. The glass in here is kind of a bit thick. All right, Patiently waiting to receive my shipping information. They've been awesome to deal with. I've had to change my order twice, and they've been very accommodating. Thanks. Yeah, I really hope I can announce the shipping date very soon. I just want to tell you guys a shipping date that we then ship at. I don't want to say, oh, in 2 days, and then again 2 days. I feel that would be unfair. It's a bit late, but I'm feeling I grab an espresso as well. Yeah, this is actually decaf, so I am kind of cheating. Okay, so let's see how this comes out. Slight overshoot here, but the auto-tune feature is in the pipeline. This one's actually running the latest developing snapshot right now, so let's just let that cool down a bit. Maybe purge a bit of steam. Okay, nothing to be purged. And pull a shot. Oh, might have been slightly fine. No, that's going. Just in case if you missed the question about how long should each of the host section split be, I think there was a question, how should the host be that long for transducer? I did cut it down a bit. I would say cut off like a 5 centimeter piece to connect the T piece, and then just see where you can lay it in your machine, and then cut it to size. So stable temp overshoot is just due to less than ideal PID in current version. Yeah, I didn't tune it right now. I did change the control a bit of PID for this version that's on this machine. Yesterday we had the stable version, so this one is development. But this one has auto tune. I'm going to try that later. I'm wondering if you have tried any control systems match in excess of PID. I've tried a bunch of stuff with PID. I tried just PWMing the SSR. I tried like a bit of bang bang control. Yeah, so but I'm thinking I'm going to settle on this one. So there's no specific length of each of the host section as long as it's long enough. Yeah, exactly. And you should really see that you fill it up with water. Okay, espresso is here. Slight lack of crema, but I guess, yeah, grinder needs to be dialed in. And then I'm going to connect this to Wi-Fi later, set up a scale with it, and organize this a bit more. And if anybody knows how to fix the PID control on my gimbal, that probably has, be my guest. It does like to slide to the left. I think somebody in Discord also asked about cable length earlier. I made them 45 centimeter long for everything that goes to the front of the machine. It's probably a bit too long, but yeah, better too long than too short. Would you then recommend for the PID needs to be calibrated at the start to avoid such massive fluctuation, correct? Yes, I would recommend that. I mean, with time, we're probably going to have some PID values that people agree on for the system. Like, hey, you have a Gaggia Classic, use this one. You have a Gaggia Classic Pro, use this one. You have an E24, use this one. But you can just auto tune it. And then if you think it needs some further adjustments, just adjust it a bit or auto tune it again until you're happy. MQTT out of the box would show up in broker after connected to Wi-Fi. You do need to connect the MQTT broker, or like put the address in there, put a username and password if you have it, and then it will show up in there. And then we also have HomeKit. So for that, we display a pairing code in the web UI. See if my iPad is still charged from yesterday. Then I can show the setup. Nope, of course not. Quickly charge that and I'd like to show it. All right. So I've connected to the GaggiMate Wi-Fi. See if we can display this better. And then here we could connect to Wi-Fi. I'm going to connect the scales that I have for this one. So connecting them on. There we go. And then down here you would have the plugins like HomeKit, Home Assistant, Boiler Refill, Smart Grind if you want that. And then also PID values, but you could just do the auto tune here. Can you please show the PID calibration in the UI? Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's just this, then you press start, and then after a while it's going to come back with PID values. Also, once the scale is paired, it will stay paired until it's unpaired. The scales are BLE. There's no specific pairing, but it does auto connect to the last scale that you connected to. iPad is on live support? Yeah, it is. I don't use it a lot, so. Okay. Let's let that iPad get its live support somewhere else. How complex is a Bluetooth protocol connecting the scales? It's not too complex. The problem is that every scale manufacturer has a different one. The idea auto-tune sometimes hit or miss I found. I actually had a very good luck posting a screenshot of my log temp chart to ChatGPT and having it suggest revised PID values. Yeah, that actually works. Once MQTT details are entered, did you say they'll automatically appear on Home Assistant as part of HomeKit integration? If you enter MQTT details, it's going to appear in Home Assistant. If you have something like HomeKit for Apple or HomeBridge, you can connect it there with the HomeKit integration. So that's two things. I looked up the scales that have Bluetooth and the price seems excessive. Yeah, so the cheapest one at is the Eureka Preciser, which you can get for 60 euros. You just have to make sure right now there's like two versions, or there's one old one and one new one. You see these two. Then the bottom one is the old one, and that's having some issues right now. The top one works just fine. I do have an unfinished electronics project for a coffee scale. There's the espresso scale. Um, the guy is making integration for GaggiMate as well. So the espresso scale, I think you can build for like 30, 40 euros. And then you have to 3D printer housing, but then you have a cheaper scale. And there is going to be a load cell integration to this project too. Buku is nicely priced too. Yeah, I think it's like 130 euros. Still, bit of money for a scale. Do a GaggiMate Hackathon 2025? It would be kind of funny to have a GaggiMate speedrun. Should have some kind of competition. I think these speedrunners for games always have like these checkpoints in the corner of their stream. So we could do something like that. So you can beat the record. I have to look back at this stream, but I think it was under an hour or something. So let's go. I've had a lot of fun doing the Lego. Yeah, we keep that open. If you want to do the Lego, if you want to solder something together, figure it out, maybe use some different components, you can. I guess for most people, getting the wire harness and getting all the components ready, not having to look through AliExpress or Amazon or whatever, maybe choose the wrong component is a lot easier. So the red Eureka sign is the old one. Yes, that's the old one. I mean, the reason I have it here is to try and make it compatible. Once you connect it to GaggiMate or basically any third-party app that actually supports the Eureka, it freezes up completely. If you connect it to their app, it works just fine. And as of now, I'm not sure why. But the old one is like really old, so you must be quite unlucky to get that one. I'm looking for the Oricon PCs in UK. They all seem to have the red logo on the sales websites. Oh, okay. Hmm. Okay. I mean, that's just the only difference I noticed, apart from like actually some protocol differences. Hmm. I mean, if somebody else has a red crested one and it works, maybe that's not it. But the one I got first, the one that worked and where I wrote the protocol, that was the one with the white logo. Maybe it's just different housings. What Eureka a couple of days ago, website was showing one with the red logo, but got one with the white. That could also be it. Could just be that they still have the old logo, but that's from when they put it on the website, like the first batch they made. I mean, I guess most shops have like a return policy, so check which one you get. Um, there's also some checks you can do with just your phone, where you see like how it shows up there. And if it's not the one, we can't make it work, then just send it back. Also, those shops are gonna hate me now for telling you guys to send your scales back. It's because I can ask, is this the SLA printed box for the screen? Yes, that's the one or the prototype that I ordered from the factory just to verify it all good. My print's a bit wobbly, probably my fault. Can you show the fit? This one is actually the one for the Sylvia. When you get the screen, that's a little trick I did with this one since it's not for the Classic Pro. They have like a thin bit of foam in there to protect the screen. Just shove that in there and it fits perfectly. But if you have the right one and ordered it, it should just fit fine. I chose the Lego build as for a soldering project. I'm still tempted to pick up the PCB to make sure it's all safe and reliable. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. The PCBs come with some protection mechanisms. They come coated and all soldered from factory. So you have like a conformal coating on the back of it for water protection, but also so you can't touch anything on there. So you have delivery date already, waiting for my GaggiMate kit for almost 2 months now. I'm gonna publish the delivery date soon. You will get a delivery notification as soon as it leaves the warehouse. We were in the pre-order stage when the shop launched. Um, There's been some slight delays, but it's looking good. Is it too early for alcohol? I mean, it's like 8:30 here in the evening, so I would assume no. I'm not sure how YouTube likes drinking on stream, but also not what this video is about. I turned the espresso shot from the install video yesterday into a nice espresso machine martini. You can see that on the Instagram. Okay, if there's no more question, guys, I am gonna end it here tonight. Thanks for joining in, and I will do probably not a whole install stream on the Sylvia again since I did that. But like, what's the difference about switching to GaggiMate Pro or like installing GaggiMate Pro? Lovely thing. Some more questions will arise, but right now I see your Gaggia is without the spring-loaded switch. Does the kit annuls the spring? Do I have to eliminate by myself? This machine was previously modified, so it's like the US machines, even though it is a 240 volt machine. You are gonna leave the spring in there. I explained at the start of the video. If you have the EU and the Eco version, there is some connectors on the brew switch, which you basically just have to bridge. So there's still going to be the springy switch. You're going to switch it on by just clicking it once. But we do disable the Eco PCB function. There's like connections to the brew switch, which will stop the Eco PCB from turning off while you're doing a shot, basically. So it doesn't interrupt it. So what we do is we just bridge that connection, and the machine thinks it's pulling a shot all the time. The Eco PCB has some other functions like smoothing the power of the machine, so I don't see a reason why not leave it in there. Which reminds me, I will need to rewatch where you move cables for the front switches. Yeah, I'm gonna take some screenshots from this guide, and then there's also the current guide, and I'm gonna rework that a bit, also for the Pro install. I'll probably just take some more pictures with just the components and lay them out on the table and see that we get a better guide going. I'm not sure, like a diagram would have to be a diagram of the parts, not really a wiring diagram or like a electronics diagram. It's more like move what to where and connect what to where. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.